A poor 8-year-old girl begs an unkind millionaire for leftovers. He had no idea she was his lost daughter, and what she says breaks his heart. Before we get into it, if this video found you at the right moment, let me know with your favorite emoji. The summer heat shimmered off the pavement outside Bellamy's, Boston's most exclusive restaurant. 8-year-old Emma Tucker pressed her small face against the window, watching the wealthy diners inside. Her golden hair hung in matted tangles around her thin shoulders, her once white dress now grey from weeks without proper washing. The shoes on her tiny feet were duct-taped at the soles. "Come on, Emma," Martha whispered, tugging gently at the child's arm. "We shouldn't be here." Martha had been Emma's foster mother for just 6 months. At 62, with arthritis twisting her fingers and medical bills piling up, she'd taken in the girl when nobody else would. Last week's eviction notice still burned in Martha's pocket. "But they throw away so much food," Emma insisted, her blue eyes wide with a wisdom beyond her years, "and we haven't eaten since yesterday morning." Inside, William Blackwood sat alone at his regular table, barely touching his $200 steak. At 42, he'd built Blackwood Enterprises into a multi-billion-dollar corporation through cutthroat determination. His coldness was legendary in business circles, his emptiness evident in the set of his shoulders. "Mr. Blackwood, would you like the rest wrapped up?" the waiter asked. William glanced at his barely touched meal. "No, just the check." That's when he noticed them, the old woman and the little girl watching from outside. Something about the child's eyes caught him off guard. He quickly looked away, signaling for the waiter. "Sir, those people outside." "I'll have security remove them," the waiter assured him. William hesitated, glancing back at the girl. For a fleeting moment, something stirred within him, something he'd buried long ago. Before he could decide what to do, the restaurant's manager was already heading toward the door. Emma saw the manager approaching and tugged Martha's sleeve. "We have to go." But as they turned to leave, Emma stumbled. Her worn shoe finally gave out, sending her sprawling onto the sidewalk just as William exited the restaurant. "Are you all right?" he asked mechanically, more from social obligation than concern. Emma looked up, and William froze. Those eyes, the exact shade of cornflower blue that had haunted his dreams for 9 years. "I'm fine, sir," Emma replied softly. "I'm sorry for bothering you." William couldn't explain the strange pull he felt toward this child. Against his better judgment, he asked, "Were you looking for something?" Martha stepped forward protectively. "We should go, Emma." "Were you hungry?" William pressed, noticing the girl's thin frame. Emma straightened her shoulders with surprising dignity. "We were just wondering if there might be any leftover food. I promise to pay you back when I grow up." Something cracked inside William's chest, a hairline fracture in the ice he'd built around his heart. "Why don't you both come inside?" he heard himself saying. Martha shook her head. "We couldn't possibly—" "I insist," William said, his voice softer than it had been in years. As he led them inside, William couldn't shake the feeling that he knew this child somehow. The way she tilted her head, the determined set of her jaw. It was like looking at a ghost from his past. What William Blackwood didn't know, what he couldn't possibly know, was that 9 years ago, when Catherine James had tried to tell him she was pregnant, his assistant had intercepted the calls, determined to protect him from what she saw as a gold digger's trap. Catherine died in childbirth, her baby disappeared into the foster system, and William never knew he had a daughter. Until now. 2. William's penthouse overlooked Boston Harbor, 40 stories above the city streets. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased $1 million view, but he rarely noticed it anymore. Tonight, however, he stood at the glass, watching the harbor lights flicker like distant stars. "What were you thinking, William?" His assistant, Victoria Harlow's voice, cut through his thoughts. At 45, she'd been with him for 15 years, managing every aspect of his life with ruthless efficiency. "They were hungry, Victoria," he replied, still staring out at the night. "You could have given them money and sent them on their way. Instead, you brought them to your regular restaurant, had the chef prepare them special meals, and then gave them your card?" Victoria's voice rose with each word. "Do you have any idea what the board would say if they knew you were entertaining homeless people?" William turned, his expression hardening. "The board doesn't dictate who I have dinner with." Victoria placed a folder on his desk. "The quarterly reports need your signature, and you have the Henderson meeting tomorrow at 8. And as she turned to leave, William asked, "Victoria, do you remember Catherine James?" Victoria's step faltered almost imperceptibly. "The artist? From the charity auction years ago?" "Yes. Did she ever try to contact me after we broke things off?" Victoria's face remained professionally blank. "Not that I recall. Why do you ask?" "No reason," William replied. But as Victoria left, he pulled out his phone and searched for Catherine James Artist, Boston. The search returned an obituary from 7 years ago. Catherine James, promising young artist, had died from complications following childbirth. There was no mention of the child's fate. William stared at Catherine's photo. They'd spent 6 passionate months together before his ambition had driven him away. She'd been everything he wasn't: warm, creative, full of life. He'd ended things when he realized he was falling in love, afraid of anything that might distract him from his empire building. His phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. "Mr. Blackwood, this is Martha Tucker, from earlier today." William straightened. "Yes, Mrs. Tucker, is everything all right? Emma wanted me to call and thank you again for dinner. She's never eaten in a restaurant before." Something tightened in William's chest. "How long have you been Emma's guardian?" 6 months. Her last foster home didn't work out." "Foster home?" William's pulse quickened. "Emma's been in the system since birth. Her mother died during delivery, poor thing." William's grip tightened on the phone. "Mrs. Tucker, would you and Emma join me for dinner again tomorrow?" After hanging up, William returned to the window, his mind racing. The timing of Catherine's death, Emma's age, those hauntingly familiar blue eyes. It couldn't be coincidence. In his desk drawer was a small velvet box he hadn't opened in years. Inside lay a silver locket containing a lock of Catherine's hair, fiery red like autumn leaves. He'd kept it even after walking away. If his suspicions were correct, he'd made the greatest mistake of his life 9 years ago. And that little girl eating restaurant leftovers might be his daughter. At her small apartment, Emma clutched Martha's worn Bible as they said their nightly prayers. "And thank you for Mr. Blackwood and the food," Emma whispered. "Please help me find a way to pay him back someday." Martha smoothed Emma's hair. "Sweetheart, people like Mr. Blackwood don't need our money." "It's not about money," Emma replied with 8-year-old wisdom. "It's about keeping promises." As Emma drifted to sleep, Martha noticed something she hadn't before, a small birthmark behind the child's ear, shaped like a crescent moon. 03. Catherine James had loved autumn in Boston. William remembered how she'd drag him to the public garden to watch the leaves change, insisting they'd take the swan boats, no matter how cold it got. "Life is too short for practicality, William," she'd laugh, her red hair flying in the October wind. Standing in that same garden 9 years later, William watched as Emma fed the ducks, Martha sitting nearby on a bench. This was their 4th meeting in 2 weeks, each one leaving William more convinced of what he now suspected. Mr. Blackwood, Emma called, running over with breadcrumbs still in her hand. "The ducks told me a secret." William knelt to her level. "What did they say?" "They said you look sad behind your eyes, like Martha when she thinks I'm not looking." William's breath caught. Catherine had once told him the exact same thing. "Emma, would you mind if I ask you something about your mother?" Emma's smile faded. "I don't know anything about her, just that her name was Catherine, and she died when I was born." "Catherine," William repeated softly. "Do you have anything of hers?" Emma shook her head. "The fire at my first foster home burned everything." Martha joined them, moving slowly with her cane. "Emma, why don't you feed the last of the bread to the ducks?" When Emma was out of earshot, Martha said, "She's quite taken with you, Mr. Blackwood. I haven't seen her this happy since I've known her." "Mrs. Tucker, I need to ask you something important. Does Emma have a birthmark?" "Behind her right ear, shaped like a crescent moon." Martha's eyes widened. "How could you possibly know that?" William's heart thundered in his chest. "Because Catherine had the same birthmark, and so does my mother." "What exactly are you saying, Mr. Blackwood?" "I believe Emma is my daughter." Martha's expression hardened. "Do you have any idea what that child has been through? 7 foster homes in 8 years, nights without food, a lifetime without belonging anywhere." "I didn't know," William whispered. "I never knew Catherine was pregnant." "And now that you suspect, what do you intend to do? Upend her life again? Take her away from the little stability she's found?" Before William could answer, Emma returned, beaming. "The ducks ate everything." That night, William couldn't sleep. He paced his penthouse until dawn, then called his lawyer at 6 a.m. "I need everything you can find on Emma Tucker. Birth certificate, adoption records, everything." "May I ask why?" his lawyer inquired cautiously. "Because I believe she's my daughter." Later that afternoon, his lawyer called back. "William, I've found something strange. Emma's original birth certificate lists the mother as Catherine James, but the father is unknown. However, there's a sealed record with the family court. Someone went to great lengths to hide something about this child's parentage. Who would do that, and why?" "I don't know, but whoever it was had considerable influence. These kinds of records don't get sealed without serious pull." That evening, William received a text from Martha. "Emma's in the hospital. Children's Medical Center, room 412. William broke every traffic law getting there. He found Martha in the hallway, outside Emma's room, her eyes red from crying. "What happened?" "Pneumonia." Her fever spiked suddenly. Martha looked up at him. "She's been asking for you." William entered the room cautiously. Emma looked tiny in the hospital bed, her face flushed with fever. "Mr. Blackwood," she whispered. "You came." "Of course I did." He sat beside her, taking her small hand in his. "Am I going to die like my mother?" "No," William said firmly. "I promise you won't." Emma's eyes fluttered closed. "If I do, I'm sorry I never paid you back for the food." As Emma slept, a doctor entered with her chart. "Are you family?" he asked William. Before he could answer, William noticed the doctor's name badge, Dr. James Peterson. "Were you by any chance working here 9 years ago?" William asked suddenly. The doctor studied him carefully. "I was." "Did you know Catherine James?" Dr. Peterson's expression changed. "Who's asking?" "My name is William Blackwood. I believe Emma is my daughter." The doctor's face paled. "Mr. Blackwood, we should talk, but not here." As Dr. Peterson led him to his office, William's phone buzzed with a text from his lawyer. "Found something. The person who had Emma's records sealed was Victoria Harlow." Draw 4. Victoria Harlow had been 28 when she first met William Blackwood at a business seminar in Chicago. She'd recognized his potential immediately, his ruthless intelligence, his drive, his complete focus on success. Within a year, she'd become his executive assistant, and within 5 she was indispensable. What William never suspected was that Victoria had mapped out her own future alongside his. Eventually, she would transition from assistant to wife, from employee to partner, until Catherine James appeared and threatened everything. Now, 15 years later, Victoria sat in her immaculate apartment reviewing the day's correspondence. Her phone rang, a private investigator she kept on retainer. Ms. Harlow, someone's been looking into the James case. Court records were accessed today. Victoria's hand tightened around her wineglass. By whom? Lawrence Davis, William Blackwood's attorney. The glass shattered in her grip, red wine spilling like blood across her white carpet. At Children's Medical Center, Dr. Peterson closed his office door. I was Catherine's doctor during her pregnancy, he explained. She came to me desperate after trying to reach you repeatedly. William's jaw tightened. I never received any messages from her. She said someone was blocking her, your assistant. By the time Catherine realized what was happening, she was already 7 months pregnant and experiencing complications. What complications? Preeclampsia. I urged her to reduce stress, but she was determined to tell you about the baby. Dr. Peterson's eyes held accusation. The night she went into labor, there was an accident. Her taxi was hit by a drunk driver on the way to the hospital. William felt physically ill. The birth certificate says she died in childbirth. Technically true. She survived the accident long enough to deliver Emma, then hemorrhaged. Her last words were your name and a request that her daughter be given to you. But I never knew. Emma went into foster care instead. Dr. Peterson nodded grimly. Someone falsified documents, claimed the father was unknown. By the time I discovered what had happened, Emma had already been placed in the system. When I tried to locate her, I hit walls everywhere. Someone with considerable influence wanted that child to disappear. William's phone buzzed again. Another message from his lawyer. Victoria has been transferring large sums to various family court officials for years. The pieces clicked into horrible place. Victoria had intercepted Catherine's calls, hidden the pregnancy from him, and then ensured Emma disappeared into the system after Catherine's death. I need a DNA test, William said, immediately. Already ahead of you, Dr. Peterson replied, holding up a sealed envelope. I took the liberty of running one when you arrived. Emma's fever is from a routine childhood infection, but I ordered full blood work as a precaution. William's hands trembled as he opened the envelope. Probability of paternity 99. 9998%. In Emma's hospital room, Martha dozed in a chair while Emma slept. The little girl's eyes fluttered open at the sound of the door. Mr. Blackwood, she murmured. William approached slowly, seeing her, truly seeing her for the first time. His daughter, his child, the family he'd never known he had. Emma, he said softly, there's something very important I need to tell you. Before he could continue, the hospital room door opened again. Victoria stood there, her usually perfect appearance slightly disheveled. William, we need to talk. Now. Martha awoke, instantly alert. Who are you? Victoria ignored her, focusing on William. Whatever you think you've discovered, you're making a mistake. William stood, positioning himself between Victoria and Emma's bed. The only mistake was trusting you for 15 years. Victoria's eyes darted to Emma, then back to William. You don't understand what you're doing. I understand perfectly, William replied, his voice deadly quiet. You kept my daughter from me. You let me believe Catherine never tried to contact me. You orchestrated all of this. Victoria's composure cracked. I protected you. Catherine would have ruined everything we built. We? William's voice rose. There is no we, Victoria. There never was. Mr. Blackwood? Emma's small voice came from behind him. What's happening? William turned to her, his expression softening. Emma, But Victoria wasn't finished. Do you really think you can be a father? You, who works 18 hours a day? You who cancels plans at a moment's notice? That child will end up neglected just like every other relationship in your life. Martha stood, surprisingly formidable despite her frail frame. I think you should leave. Victoria's laugh held a tinge of hysteria. You don't know him. None of you do. William Blackwood doesn't care about people. He cares about power. That's enough, William said. You're fired, Victoria. And before you leave this hospital, know that my lawyers will be contacting you about criminal charges." Victoria's face went white. Without another word, she turned and left. In the silence that followed, Emma's small voice asked again, "Mr. Blackwood, what's happening? Why was that lady so angry?" William sat on the edge of Emma's bed, his heart pounding. "Emma, I need to tell you something that might sound unbelievable." 05. Emma stared at the ceiling of her hospital room, trying to process everything William, her father, had told her. Outside, she could hear Martha and William talking in hushed voices. "She needs time," Martha was saying. "It's a lot for anyone to take in, let alone a child." "I've already lost 8 years," William replied. "I don't want to lose any more." "This isn't about what you want," Martha said firmly. "It's about what Emma needs." Emma closed her eyes, remembering all the nights she'd lain awake in different foster homes, imagining what her parents might have been like. In her fantasies, her mother had been a princess, and her father a brave knight. Sometimes they were astronauts or explorers. Never once had she imagined her father as a stern businessman in an expensive suit. Yet something inside her had recognized him that very first day outside the restaurant. Something had drawn her to him, even before she knew the truth. The door opened, and William entered alone, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. "May I sit?" he asked. Emma nodded, studying his face for familiar features. They had the same eyes, the same stubborn chin. "Do you have questions for me?" William asked. Emma had hundreds, but only one seemed important right now. "Did you love my mother?" William's expression softened. "Yes, more than I was willing to admit, even to myself." "Then why did you leave her?" William sighed, choosing his words carefully. "I was afraid. Building my company had always been my only goal. When I met your mother, she made me want different things, and that scared me." "What things?" "A real life, family, love." He looked at his hands. "I've spent 9 years building an empire, Emma, and I've never felt as rich as I did those 6 months with Catherine. Would you have stayed if you knew about me?" William met her gaze directly. "In a heartbeat." Emma thought about this. "What happens now?" "That depends partly on what you want," William said. "Legally, I'm your father, and I want you to come live with me. But I understand this is overwhelming." "What about Martha?" Emma asked. "She needs me," William nodded. "Martha will always be part of your life, I promise." Emma was silent for a long moment. "Can I think about it?" "Of course." William stood. "I should let you rest." And as he reached the door, Emma called, "Mr. Blackwood, I mean." "You can call me whatever makes you comfortable," he said gently. "William," she decided. "Thank you for finding me." The next morning, Dr. Peterson discharged Emma with instructions for follow-up care. As they left the hospital, a news van pulled up. "Mr. Blackwood, is it true you've discovered a long-lost daughter?" William instinctively shielded Emma from the cameras. No comment. More reporters appeared, shouting questions. William swept Emma into his arms and hurried toward his waiting car, Martha following as quickly as her arthritic legs would allow. "How did they find out?" Martha asked, once they were safely inside. William's expression darkened. "Victoria." At Martha's apartment, they found an eviction notice on the door. "Final warning. Vacate premises within 24 hours. "I was going to tell you," Martha said to Emma. "I didn't want to worry you while you were sick." "You're both staying at my penthouse tonight," William declared. "We'll sort this out tomorrow." Emma had never seen anything like William's home. 40 floors above the city, it felt like floating in the sky. But despite its grandeur, it struck her as lonely. No photos, no personal touches, nothing that said someone really lived there. "I'll have the guest rooms prepared," William said. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She wandered into the living room and found William at the window, staring out at the city lights. "Couldn't sleep either?" he asked without turning. It's too quiet, Emma admitted. In foster homes, there were always noises. Other children, adults arguing, the sounds of a household. I have something for you, William said, retrieving a small box from his desk. This was your mother's. Inside was a silver locket. When Emma opened it, she found a small lock of vibrant red hair. My mother's hair, she whispered. William nodded. You have her spirit, her kindness. And your eyes, Emma said. That's how you knew, isn't it? My eyes. They were the first clue, William agreed. But I think somehow I recognized you on a deeper level. Emma fingered the locket. If I come to live with you, can Martha come too? She doesn't have anywhere else to go. I've been thinking about that, William said. My house in Cambridge has been sitting empty for years. It's near the best schools in Boston. There's a garden, room for both of you. Both of us. Emma, I've missed 8 years of your life. I have a lot to learn about being a father. I think we both need Martha. For the first time since learning the truth, Emma smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. I'd like that. But as they stood together at the window, neither noticed the car parked across the street. Victoria Harlow watching through binoculars, her face twisted with rage. Enjoy your happy ending while it lasts, she whispered. 06. The Cambridge house was everything William had promised. A beautiful Victorian with a wraparound porch and a garden out back. Emma ran from room to room, her excitement growing with each discovery. There's a window seat in my bedroom, she called down to Martha, who was exploring the first floor more slowly. William watched from the doorway, a mixture of joy and regret on his face. This house had been an investment property. He'd never lived here himself. Now he wished he'd seen it through Emma's eyes years ago. The kitchen's lovely, Martha said, joining him, and the garden has potential. I've arranged for contractors to make any modifications you need for your arthritis, William told her. Handrails, a walk-in shower, whatever helps. Martha studied him thoughtfully. You're really committed to this? She's my daughter, William replied simply, and you're important to her. What about your work, your life in the city? William smiled ruefully. I'm learning that some things are more important than quarterly reports. The doorbell rang, interrupting their conversation. William's lawyer stood on the porch, holding a thick folder. I've completed the legal work, Lawrence said. Emma's birth certificate has been amended to list you as her father. The adoption petition is ready for filing, and I've drafted the guardianship agreement for Mrs. Tucker. Thank you, Lawrence. Any news on Victoria? Lawrence's expression turned grim. She's gone underground, emptied her accounts, disconnected her phone. The police are looking for her. William nodded, unsurprised. Victoria had always been thorough. After Lawrence left, William found Emma in what would be her bedroom, arranging her few possessions on the dresser, a worn teddy bear, a dog-eared copy of Anne of Green Gables, and the silver locket with her mother's hair. Do you like it here? William asked. Emma nodded enthusiastically. It feels like a home. William sat beside her on the window seat. Emma, there's something important I need to ask you. What is it? I'd like to legally adopt you. You're already my daughter by birth, but adoption would make it official in the eyes of the law. Emma considered this. Would my name change? If you want it to. You could be Emma Tucker, Emma Blackwood, or Emma Tucker Blackwood. What was my mother's last name again? James, Catherine James. Emma was quiet for a moment. I'd like to be Emma James Blackwood, to keep part of her with me. William felt a lump in his throat. I think that's perfect. Later that evening, as they ate dinner in their new kitchen, William's phone rang repeatedly. After the 5th call, he excused himself to answer. The board is in an uproar, his CFO reported. Victoria sent them all files claiming you're emotionally unstable, making rash decisions, hiding a secret family. They're calling for an emergency meeting. William pinched the bridge of his nose. Schedule it for tomorrow morning. When he returned to the table, Emma was watching him with Catherine's perceptiveness. "Is it work trouble?" "Nothing for you to worry about," William assured her. But after Emma went to bed, William confided in Martha. "Victoria's trying to undermine me at the company. She knows enough about our operations to cause serious damage. That woman won't stop, will she?" Martha frowned. "No, Victoria doesn't give up easily." William stared into his coffee. "She told the board I'm neglecting the company because of Emma." "Are you?" "No. But my priorities have shifted." William looked up at Martha. "For the first time in my life, I don't care about being the richest or most powerful man in the room. I just want to be a good father." The next morning, William dressed for battle in his sharpest suit. As he prepared to leave for the board meeting, Emma appeared in her pajamas. "You'll come back, right?" she asked, a shadow of old insecurities in her eyes. William knelt to her level. "Always. No meeting, no company, nothing will ever keep me from coming back to you. I promise." At Blackwood Enterprises, William walked into a boardroom filled with tension. 10 board members sat around the table, expressions ranging from concern to outright hostility. "William," the chairman began, "serious allegations have been made about your recent behavior and judgment." "By Victoria Harlow, I presume," William replied calmly. "Among others," the chairman said. "Is it true you've abandoned your residence to move to Cambridge for a child you've known less than a month?" "It's true I've moved to provide a stable home for my daughter, yes." Murmurs rippled around the table. "Your daughter?" one board member repeated. "Since when do you have a daughter?" William took a deep breath. "Since 9 years ago, when Catherine James gave birth to Emma. I only discovered Emma's existence recently through a chance encounter." "And you're certain this child is yours?" another board member asked skeptically. "DNA confirmed, birth certificate amended," William replied flatly. "Any other questions about my personal life before we move on to actual company business?" The boardroom door burst open, and Victoria walked in, immaculately dressed as always. "I believe I can answer some questions," she said smoothly. "You're not welcome here, Victoria," William stated. "The board invited me," she replied, taking a seat. "They deserve to know the truth about your fitness to lead this company." For the next hour, Victoria outlined her concerns: William's erratic behavior, his emotional decisions, his divided focus. The board listened, some nodding in agreement. Finally, William stood. "For 15 years, I've devoted every waking moment to this company. I've sacrificed personal relationships, holidays, even my own health for Blackwood Enterprises." He looked around the table. "In return, I've built you one of the most successful corporations in America." The board members shifted uncomfortably. "Now, for the first time, I'm building something else, a relationship with my daughter. If that makes me unfit to lead in your eyes, so be it. I'll sell my shares and walk away today." Victoria smiled triumphantly. "But," William continued, "before you vote, you should know that Victoria Harlow interfered with my personal communications, falsified company records, and committed multiple felonies to keep my daughter hidden from me. The police are on their way now to arrest her for these crimes." Victoria's smile froze. "You're bluffing." The boardroom doors opened again, and 2 police officers entered. "Victoria Harlow?" one asked. "We have a warrant for your arrest." As Victoria was led away in handcuffs, the chairman cleared his throat. "William, perhaps we've been hasty in our judgment." William checked his watch. "If there's nothing else, I promised my daughter I'd be home for dinner." That night, as they ate ice cream on the porch swing, Emma asked, "Is everything okay with your company now?" William smiled. "Everything's fine, but even if it wasn't, you're more important." Emma leaned against his shoulder. "I've been thinking about what you said, about adopting me. And I'd like that," she said simply. "I'd like to be your daughter, for real." As the summer twilight deepened around them, William felt a peace he'd never known before. The empire he'd spent his life building suddenly seemed insignificant compared to this moment, this porch, this child. Inside the house, Martha watched them through the window, smiling through tears. In her hands was a photo she'd found while unpacking. Catherine James at an art exhibition, her red hair gleaming, her blue eyes, Emma's eyes, full of life. "You'd be proud," she whispered to the photograph. They found each other. But across town, in a lawyer's office, Victoria Harlow, free on bail, was making plans of her own. "I want custody of Emma Tucker," she told the attorney, "and I have documents proving William Blackwood is an unfit father." Autumn painted Cambridge in brilliant hues of red and gold. Emma James Blackwood, the name change now official, stood at the bus stop for her first day at Oak Ridge Elementary. Her new backpack felt strange against her shoulders, the weight of fresh notebooks and unbroken pencils, a luxury she'd never known. "Remember, the driver will bring you directly home," William said, straightening her jacket for the third time. "Martha will be waiting." "I know, Dad," Emma replied, testing the word that still felt new on her tongue. William's heart skipped at hearing her call him that. For the past month, they'd been building their relationship day by day, reading together at night, having breakfast each morning, learning to be father and daughter after 8 lost years. "You'll do great," he assured her, though his own stomach twisted with anxiety. As the yellow bus approached, Emma hugged him quickly. "Don't worry so much," she whispered, sounding far older than 8. William watched until the bus disappeared around the corner, then headed to his temporary office in the Cambridge house. He'd restructured his work schedule, delegating more to his executive team and working remotely 3 days a week. The board had begrudgingly accepted these changes after the Victoria debacle. Speaking of Victoria, her custody petition had been filed the previous week. William's lawyers assured him it was groundless. Victoria had no relation to Emma and no standing to claim guardianship. But the mere existence of the case caused William constant anxiety. His phone rang with his lawyer's number. "Lawrence, please tell me the judge threw out Victoria's petition." "Not exactly," Lawrence replied grimly. "She's amended her filing with a new claim. She's saying she's Catherine's half-sister." William nearly dropped the phone. "That's impossible. She's provided documentation. Birth certificates showing the same father, photographs of them together as children. If it's fabricated, it's extremely well done." "It has to be fabricated." "Catherine never mentioned a sister." "Half-sister," Lawrence corrected, and according to Victoria's filing, they were estranged for years before Catherine's death. She claims she only recently discovered Emma's existence through news coverage of your reunion. William's mind raced. Even if this were true, it doesn't give her priority over me. "I'm Emma's biological father." "Normally, no, but Victoria's filing includes allegations that you're an unfit parent due to your work schedule and lack of childcare experience. She's requesting a home study and psychological evaluation." After hanging up, William sat motionless, staring at the family photograph he'd placed on his desk, Emma and Martha in the garden, William kneeling beside them. It had been taken just 2 weeks ago, the first real family photo of his life. Across town, Victoria Harlow sat in her attorney's office, reviewing their strategy. "The sister angle was brilliant," her lawyer commented. "The documentation looks flawless." "It should," Victoria replied coolly. "It cost enough." "What's your endgame here? Even if you create doubt about Blackwood's parenting abilities, the courts generally favor biological parents." Victoria's smile didn't reach her eyes. "William took everything from me, my career, my reputation, my future. I'm simply returning the favor. By taking his daughter, by making him understand loss." Victoria examined her perfect manicure. "Besides, the girl would be better off with me." William Blackwood doesn't know the first thing about raising a child. Wing, at Oak Ridge Elementary, Emma sat alone at lunch, acutely aware of the differences between herself and her classmates. Their casual mentions of vacations, second homes, and extracurricular activities highlighted the gap between her past and present. "You're the girl from the news, right?" A red-haired girl slid onto the bench across from her. "I'm Lily Montgomery." Emma nodded cautiously. "Is it true you were homeless before your dad found you?" "I wasn't homeless," Emma corrected. "I lived with Martha in an apartment." "My mom says your dad is one of the richest men in Boston," Lily continued. "She says it's like a fairy tale." Emma looked down at her lunch, a sandwich Martha had carefully prepared that morning. "It's not a fairy tale. It's just my life." That afternoon, when Emma stepped off the bus, she found not Martha waiting, but a social worker and a woman she recognized from the hospital, Victoria. "Hello, Emma." Victoria smiled warmly. "I'm your Aunt Victoria." "Your mother was my sister." Emma took a step back. "My father didn't say anything about you picking me up." The social worker intervened. "Emma, I'm Ms. Bennett from Family Services. There's been a petition filed regarding your custody, and the court has ordered a home visit today." "I want to call my dad," Emma said firmly. "Of course," Victoria replied smoothly, "once we're inside." As they walked toward the house, Emma noticed Martha watching anxiously from the window. The moment they entered, Martha embraced her. "Are you all right, sweetheart?" Emma nodded, then whispered, "Call Dad." While the social worker began inspecting the house, Victoria approached Emma. "I know this is confusing, but I want you to know I've been looking for you for years. Catherine was my little sister. We had different mothers, but the same father." Emma studied the woman skeptically. "If you're my mother's sister, why didn't you find me before?" Victoria's expression turned sad. "I tried. The system lost track of you after Catherine died. When I saw the news about William finding you, I couldn't believe it." Martha returned from calling William, her face tight with worry. "He's on his way." The social worker continued her inspection, making notes about the house, asking Martha questions about Emma's routine. Victoria followed, occasionally making comments about the hasty arrangements and temporary situation. When William arrived 30 minutes later, his face was thunderous. "What is the meaning of this unannounced visit?" Ms. Bennett remained professional. "The court ordered an emergency home study following serious allegations about Emma's living conditions." "What allegations?" William demanded. "That the child is primarily cared for by an elderly woman with health issues, while you work excessive hours," Victoria interjected. "That this arrangement was made hastily without proper vetting." William turned to the social worker. "Martha Tucker is a licensed foster parent with an exemplary record. This house has been fully inspected and approved by Family Services just 3 weeks ago, and my work schedule has been restructured specifically to accommodate my daughter's needs." Ms. Bennett nodded. "Mr. Blackwood, I'm simply following court orders. I'll need to speak with Emma alone as part of my assessment." As the adults moved to the kitchen, Emma sat with Ms. Bennett in the living room. "Emma, are you happy living here?" the social worker asked gently. Emma thought of the past month, the bedtime stories, the trips to the museum, the simple joy of having her own room that no one could take away. Most of all, she thought of William's promise. "I'll always come back." "Yes," she answered firmly. "This is my home. William is my dad. Martha is my—" She paused, searching for the right word. "Martha is my heart. They're my family." In the kitchen, Victoria was speaking quietly to William. "You don't have to make this difficult. I'm not trying to take her away completely. I'm simply proposing a more suitable arrangement. Emma living with me during the week, with you having weekend visitation." William's voice was ice. "You kept my daughter from me for 8 years. You will not have her for another minute. Victoria's mask slipped, revealing the coldness beneath. This is far from over, William. I've only just begun. The custody hearing was scheduled for December 10th, giving William's legal team just 6 weeks to prepare. Lawrence Davis assembled a battalion of experts, child psychologists, education specialists, and character witnesses to testify on William's behalf. Victoria's claiming Catherine confided in her about your relationship, Lawrence explained during a strategy session. She's painting you as a callous businessman who abandoned Catherine when the relationship became inconvenient. William winced at the kernel of truth in this characterization. That was 9 years ago. I'm not that person anymore. The judge will want to see evidence of that change, Lawrence cautioned. Your recent actions help, but Victoria's team will emphasize your past behavior and question whether this transformation is genuine or temporary. Outside, the first snow of winter dusted Cambridge in white. Emma and Martha were building a snowman in the front yard, their laughter carrying through the closed windows. She's the evidence, William said softly, watching his daughter place a carrot nose on the snowman. Every decision I make now is with Emma in mind. Meanwhile, Emma was adapting to her new school with mixed results. Her academic background was spotty after years of changing schools, leaving her behind in several subjects. William hired tutors, but Emma's frustration grew as she struggled to catch up. "I'm stupid," she declared one evening after a particularly difficult math session. "You are absolutely not stupid," William countered, sitting beside her at the kitchen table. "You've had an inconsistent education because of circumstances beyond your control." Emma sighed dramatically. "Lily Montgomery says I shouldn't even be in 3rd grade if I can't multiply right." William made a mental note to discuss this Lily situation with Emma's teacher. "Everyone learns at their own pace. When I was your age, I couldn't read properly." Emma looked up in surprise. "Really?" William nodded. "I had dyslexia. Words jumbled together on the page. My father called me lazy, but my mother found me a special tutor. Did it help? Eventually, but it was hard work, and there were many days I wanted to give up." William squeezed her hand. "The point is, learning isn't always easy, and that has nothing to do with how smart you are." That night, after Emma was asleep, William found Martha in the kitchen, preparing lunches for the next day. "You don't have to do that," he said. "I can hire someone." Martha shook her head. "I like taking care of her. Gives me purpose." William sat at the counter. "Martha, I need to ask you something. Did Catherine ever mention having a sister or half-sister?" Martha considered this. "Not directly, but once, when Emma was about 3 months old, a woman came to the hospital claiming to be family. Catherine was already gone by then, of course." William straightened. "What woman? Did you see her?" "You see?" "No, but the nurse mentioned it when I came to visit Emma in the NICU. Said the woman was quite insistent, but couldn't provide proper identification. Security escorted her out." "Did you tell the police about this?" "I reported everything I knew when they interviewed me last month. Didn't seem important at the time." Martha paused. "You don't think Victoria was that woman, do you?" Before William could answer, his phone rang. Lawrence again. "William, we have a problem. Victoria's filed an emergency motion claiming Martha is physically unable to provide adequate childcare due to her arthritis. The judge has ordered another home study, this time focusing specifically on Martha's role." William's grip tightened on the phone. "She's trying to eliminate our support system piece by piece." "That's not all," Lawrence continued. "Victoria submitted medical records suggesting Catherine had mental health issues that could be hereditary. She's requesting a psychological evaluation for Emma." After hanging up, William relayed the news to Martha, whose face crumpled in distress. "She's right about one thing. My arthritis is getting worse. Some mornings I can barely hold a cup." "Martha, you're not just here as childcare. You're here because Emma loves you, and because you've been more of a parent to her than anyone." Martha wiped away a tear. "What are we going to do?" "Fight," William said simply, "with everything we have." The next day, Emma came home from school unusually quiet. When William asked what was wrong, she handed him a crumpled note. It was from Lily Montgomery. "Everyone knows your dad just feels sorry for you. My mum says he'll get tired of playing daddy soon." William's heart sank. "Emma, this isn't true." "Isn't it?" Emma's voice was small. "You didn't want me before. What if you change your mind?" William knelt to her level. "Emma James Blackwood, listen to me carefully. Finding you was the best thing that ever happened to me. Nothing, not work, not money, not anything, matters more than you." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Promise?" "I promise," William said firmly, "and I keep my promises." That weekend, while raking leaves in the backyard, William received an unexpected visitor, Victoria's attorney. "Mr. Blackwood, my client has authorized me to present a settlement offer." He handed William an envelope. "She's willing to drop the custody petition in exchange for $20 million and a controlling interest in Blackwood Enterprises' European division." William stared at the document in disbelief. "This was never about Emma at all, was it?" The attorney shrugged. "My client feels she's entitled to compensation for her years of service." William tore the document in half. "Tell Victoria I'll see her in court." Later, reviewing case files with Lawrence, William discovered something odd in the documentation Victoria had provided. A birth certificate for Victoria James, allegedly Catherine's half-sister, dated 1978. "This can't be right," William said. "Victoria Harlow was born in 1975. I've seen her personnel file." Lawrence frowned. "So either this birth certificate is forged, or Victoria James and Victoria Harlow are two different people," William finished. "Get our investigators on this immediately." As December approached, Emma became increasingly anxious about the upcoming hearing. One night, William found her sitting on her window seat, clutching her mother's locket. "What if the judge says I have to go with her?" Emma whispered. William sat beside her. "That's not going to happen." "But what if it does? She says she's my aunt." William chose his words carefully. "Emma, I believe Victoria is lying about being related to your mother, but even if she weren't, biology isn't what makes a family. Love does." Emma leaned against him. "I'm scared." "I know," William said, holding her close. "But remember what we read in your book last night? Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it." Emma managed a small smile. "Nelson Mandela said that." "Smart man," William replied, "and you're a smart girl." As Emma drifted to sleep that night, William made a decision. He would no longer simply react to Victoria's attacks. It was time to take the offensive. Judge Eleanor Simmons had presided over family court for 27 years. She'd seen it all: bitter divorces, heart-wrenching adoptions, custody battles that left everyone wounded. The case of Emma James Blackwood promised to be equally complex. The courtroom was closed to the public, but Victoria had somehow ensured the media knew every detail of the proceedings. Headlines screamed across Boston: "Billionaire's secret daughter, custody battle begins, and long-lost aunt fights for orphaned child." William sat at the plaintiff's table with Lawrence, watching as Victoria entered with her legal team. She wore a conservative navy suit, her hair styled simply, the picture of respectable concern. "All rise," the bailiff called as Judge Simmons entered. The judge wasted no time on preliminaries. "I've reviewed the extensive filings in this case. Before we begin, I want to make one thing absolutely clear. My only concern is the welfare of the child. I'm not interested in corporate vendettas or personal grievances. Is that understood?" Both legal teams nodded. Victoria's attorney opened with a compelling narrative: a devoted aunt searching for her sister's child, only to find her in the temporary care of a workaholic father who'd abandoned the mother years ago. Ms. Harlow has established a trust fund for Emma's education, prepared a room in her home, and researched schools that specialize in helping children transition from unstable backgrounds, the attorney concluded. She offers the stability and maternal guidance this child desperately needs. When it was Lawrence's turn, he approached the bench with a folder. Your Honor, before proceeding, I'd like to submit new evidence that directly contradicts Ms. Harlow's claim of biological relationship to Emma Tucker. Victoria's attorney objected immediately. This is procedurally improper. Any evidence should have been disclosed during discovery. The evidence was obtained yesterday, Lawrence countered, and it's directly relevant to Ms. Harlow's standing in this case. Judge Simmons reviewed the documents, her expression growing increasingly severe. Ms. Harlow, these records indicate that the birth certificate you provided for Victoria James belongs to a woman who died in 1992. Can you explain this discrepancy? Victoria's composure slipped momentarily. There must be some mistake. Furthermore, Lawrence continued, we have statements from Catherine James's college roommate and former employer indicating she never mentioned having any siblings, half or otherwise. The judge turned to Victoria's attorney. Counselor, if your client has misrepresented her relationship to this child, she has no standing whatsoever in this proceeding. Victoria leaned forward. Your Honor, if I may speak directly. The judge nodded cautiously. It's true that Catherine and I weren't biological siblings, but we were as close as sisters. I promised her that if anything happened to her, I would look after her child. Victoria's voice broke convincingly. I've spent years searching for Emma. Do you have any documentation of this promise? Letters, emails, witnesses? Victoria hesitated. No, Your Honor, it was a private conversation. William's attorney pounced. Your Honor, we have evidence that Ms. Harlow actively prevented Catherine James from contacting Mr. Blackwood about her pregnancy, falsified records to keep Emma's existence hidden from her father, and has engaged in a systematic campaign of harassment since Mr. Blackwood discovered his daughter. The afternoon continued with expert testimony about Emma's well-being, Martha's capabilities despite her arthritis, and William's dramatic lifestyle changes to accommodate fatherhood. Finally, Judge Simmons called for Emma herself to be brought in for a private conversation in chambers. William watched anxiously as his daughter followed the judge, her small shoulders squared with determination. Inside the judge's chambers, Emma sat in an oversized leather chair, her feet barely touching the floor. Emma, Judge Simmons began gently, I'd like to ask you some questions about your living situation. There are no right or wrong answers, okay? Emma nodded solemnly. Are you happy living with Mr. Blackwood and Mrs. Tucker? Yes, Emma replied without hesitation. My dad reads to me every night, even when he's tired, and Martha makes me feel safe. What about Miss Harlow? She seems to care about you very much. Emma frowned. She pretends to be nice, but she makes my dad sad, and she told me that he'll get tired of me. The judge raised an eyebrow. When did she tell you that? When she came to my school. She said she was taking me for ice cream, but the principal wouldn't let her because she wasn't on the list. This was news to everyone. Victoria had attempted to remove Emma from school without authorization. Emma, if you could choose where to live, what would you want? Emma met the judge's eyes directly. I want to stay with my dad and Martha. They're my family now. When court reconvened, Judge Simmons looked grave. Based on the evidence presented in my conversation with Emma, I'm prepared to rule on this matter. She turned to Victoria. Ms. Harlow, I find your claim of familial relationship to be without merit. Further, I find your actions, including attempting to remove the child from school without authorization, deeply troubling. Victoria's face paled. I am dismissing your petition for custody with prejudice, meaning you cannot refile on these grounds. Additionally, I am issuing a restraining order prohibiting you from contacting Emma Tucker or approaching her home or school." William felt a wave of relief wash over him. "Mr. Blackwood," the judge continued, "I am granting your petition for full legal custody of Emma Tucker, with Mrs. Martha Tucker recognized as a secondary guardian. The adoption proceedings may continue as planned." As they left the courthouse, reporters clamored for statements. William simply said, "Justice was served today." "My daughter is coming home where she belongs." In the car, Emma asked, "Is it really over? She can't take me away." William hugged her close. "It's really over. You're stuck with me now, kiddo." But as their car pulled away, Victoria watched from the courthouse steps, her expression cold and calculating. "This isn't over," she whispered. "Not even close." Christmas transformed the Cambridge house into a wonderland of lights and decorations. Emma, who had never experienced a proper Christmas, threw herself into the preparations with boundless enthusiasm, dragging William and Martha from store to store in search of the perfect ornaments. "Did you and my mother ever spend Christmas together?" Emma asked one evening as they decorated the tree. William carefully hung a crystal snowflake. "No, we were together in the spring and summer. By Christmas, I had." He paused, searching for the right words. "Left her," Emma finished matter-of-factly. William nodded, surprised by her directness. "Yes, it's my greatest regret." Emma considered this. "But if you hadn't left, you might have been with her in the taxi when it crashed. Then I would have lost both of you." William stared at his daughter, astonished by her perspective. "That's a very wise way of looking at it." Emma shrugged. "Martha says everything happens for a reason, even the sad things." Speaking of Martha, her health had deteriorated since the court hearing. The stress of the custody battle combined with the winter cold had worsened her arthritis. William hired a nurse to assist with her care, but Martha's proud independence made her a difficult patient. "I'm not an invalid," she protested when the nurse tried to help her down the stairs. "Of course not," William replied diplomatically, "but the doctor said you need to rest that hip if you want to avoid surgery." Martha grudgingly accepted the help, but William could see how it frustrated her to be limited in her activities with Emma. The adoption was finalized on December 22nd, just in time for Christmas. They celebrated with a small party, just the three of them, plus Dr. Peterson, who had become a friend, and Lily Montgomery, who had unexpectedly apologized for her unkindness and become Emma's first real friend. "To Emma James Blackwood," William toasted, raising his glass of sparkling cider. "The best Christmas gift I never knew to ask for." Emma beamed, clutching the adoption certificate carefully. It made everything official. She was his daughter in the eyes of the law as well as biology. After their guests left, William presented Emma with a special gift, a scrapbook filled with photographs of Catherine. "Where did you find these?" Emma gasped, touching her mother's image reverently. "Dr. Peterson had some from medical school. Catherine's old landlady had others, and her art school contributed the rest." William pointed to a particularly vibrant photo of Catherine painting in a sun-drenched studio. "That's where she was happiest, creating beauty." Emma studied the photographs hungrily, seeing herself in her mother's smile, her expressive hands. She was so beautiful. Yes, she was, inside and out. William hesitated. "There's something else I want to show you." He led Emma to the study, where a painting hung above the desk, a landscape of Boston Harbor at sunset, the colors vibrant and alive. "Your mother painted this. It was the last thing she gave me before." William swallowed hard. "Before I made the mistake of leaving." Emma touched the canvas gently. "She forgave you, you know." "How could you know that?" "Because I would have." Emma looked up at him. "And I'm half her." On Christmas morning, they were awakened by an urgent call from the security company. There had been an attempted break-in overnight. Nothing was taken, but the alarm had scared off the intruder. "The police found footprints in the snow," the security officer explained. "They're increasing patrols in your area." William thanked him, then turned to find Emma standing in the doorway, her new holiday pajamas rumpled from sleep. "Is something wrong?" she asked. William forced a smile. "Nothing important. Ready to see what Santa brought." The incident cast a shadow over the day, though William tried not to show it. That evening, after Emma went to bed, Martha confronted him. "You think it was Victoria, don't you?" William nodded grimly. "The restraining order doesn't seem to be deterring her. What does she want?" The judge dismissed her case completely. "I'm not sure it's about Emma anymore," William admitted. "I think it's about revenge." The next morning, William received a text from an unknown number. "You can't protect her forever." He immediately contacted the police, who traced the number to a burner phone purchased with cash. They agreed to increase drive-bys of the house, but without direct evidence of Victoria's involvement, their options were limited. William hired additional security, discreet but vigilant professionals who monitored the house and followed Emma's school bus. He installed a state-of-the-art security system and made sure both Emma and Martha knew the emergency protocols. New Year's Eve arrived with heavy snow, keeping them housebound. As midnight approached, Emma struggled to stay awake, determined to see the new year begin. "This will be my first full year as a Blackwood," she declared proudly. William smiled, though his eyes constantly moved to the windows, scanning for threats. The first of many. Just before midnight, the power went out, plunging the house into darkness. "Stay here," William instructed, reaching for the flashlight they kept by the sofa. "Dad," Emma's voice trembled slightly. "It's just the storm," he assured her, though he wasn't convinced. As William moved toward the fuse box, he heard a sound from the kitchen, the soft click of the door latch. His blood ran cold. Moving silently, he positioned himself between the kitchen and the living room where Emma and Martha waited. A figure slipped through the doorway, illuminated briefly by the beam of a flashlight. William lunged, tackling the intruder to the ground. There was a brief struggle before the security team, alerted by the power outage, rushed in. "Call the police," William ordered, pinning the intruder to the floor. When the lights finally came back on, William found himself staring not at Victoria, but at a young man he'd never seen before. "Who are you?" William demanded. "Did Victoria Harlow send you?" The man's terrified eyes darted around the room. "I don't know any Victoria. I just needed money, man. This place looked rich." The police arrived moments later, taking the would-be burglar into custody. As they questioned him, it became clear he was telling the truth. Just a desperate drug addict looking for valuables to steal, not an agent of Victoria's. William felt foolish for his paranoia, but something still didn't sit right. The timing was too convenient. Later that night, as he checked on a sleeping Emma, his phone buzzed with another text from the unknown number. "Misdirection is such a useful tool, isn't it? Happy New Year, William." William stared at the message in dawning horror. The burglar had been a distraction, but from what? He immediately began checking the house room by room. Nothing seemed disturbed or missing. Finally, in his study, he noticed the painting, Catherine's last gift to him, was slightly askew. Behind it was a small wall safe where he kept important documents. The safe was untouched, still securely locked. But taped to its door was a photograph he'd never seen before. Catherine, obviously pregnant, sitting in a hospital waiting room. Written across the bottom in Catherine's handwriting, "Waiting to see Dr. Peterson about our baby. If only William would return my calls." Someone had been in his house. Someone who wanted him to know they had access to information about Catherine that he didn't. Someone who wanted him to feel vulnerable. Victoria. As the new year dawned, William made a resolution. It was time to end this threat once and for all. January brought a bitter cold snap and a fresh wave of anxiety. William increased security yet again, installing cameras throughout the house and grounds. Emma complained about the constant surveillance, but William couldn't shake the feeling that Victoria was planning something. "You're becoming obsessed," Martha observed one evening after Emma had gone to bed. "You barely sleep, you check the security footage constantly, and you've postponed 3 important business trips." William rubbed his tired eyes. "She got into our house, Martha. Past all the security, past the alarms. What if next time she goes after Emma? Has it occurred to you that might be exactly what she wants? To make you live in fear, disrupt your life." William had considered this. "Even so, I can't take chances with Emma's safety." The police had found no evidence of a second intruder on New Year's Eve. The security company suggested the photograph might have been planted days or even weeks earlier, discovered only by coincidence during the power outage. This possibility disturbed William even more. How long had Victoria been accessing his home undetected? At school, Emma was finally settling in. Her grades had improved dramatically with tutoring, and her friendship with Lily had expanded to include several other classmates. William made a point of attending her science fair and volunteering for field trips, determined to be the involved father he'd never had. But the strain of constant vigilance was taking its toll. William found himself jumping at shadows, checking locks repeatedly, calling Emma's school multiple times a day to confirm she was safe. "Dad, you're being weird," Emma informed him bluntly one afternoon. "Ms. Collins asked if everything was okay at home because you've called 4 times this week." William forced a smile. "Just being thorough." Emma fixed him with Catherine's penetrating gaze. "Is this about that lady, the one who pretended to be my aunt?" "What makes you ask that?" "I heard you and Martha talking, and there are security guys everywhere." Emma's expression grew serious. "I'm not a baby, you know. You can tell me the truth." William sighed, sitting beside her on the living room sofa. "You're right, Victoria has been concerning me lately. I'm worried she might try to cause trouble for us." "Is she still trying to take me away?" "No. The judge made it clear that's not going to happen, but she seems angry about losing." Emma considered this. "So she's like a sore loser." Despite his anxiety, William smiled at the simple characterization. "Something like that, yes. My teacher says when someone acts mean, it's usually because they're hurting inside." William's smile faded. "Sometimes that's true, but sometimes people are just mean." That night, William received a call from Lawrence. "We've found something interesting in Victoria's financial records. She's been making regular payments to someone at Boston Memorial Hospital for the past 8 years. William frowned. "What kind of payments?" $5,000 a month to a Dr. Andrew Fleming. He's an oncologist." Why would Victoria be paying an oncologist? That's the interesting part. We don't think the payments are for medical services. Dr. Fleming was Catherine's doctor before she switched to Dr. Peterson. William's pulse quickened. "You think he has information about Catherine?" "It's possible. He left Boston Memorial shortly after Catherine's death and opened a private practice. The payments started immediately afterward. The next day, William arranged to meet Dr. Fleming at his office. The doctor was clearly nervous, his hands fidgeting with a pen as William sat across from him. "I understand you treated Catherine James 9 years ago," William began. Dr. Fleming nodded cautiously. "Briefly, yes. She transferred to Dr. Peterson's care in her 2nd trimester." "Why the switch?" The doctor hesitated. Ms. James expressed concerns about confidentiality. She believed someone was accessing her medical records inappropriately. "Victoria Harlow," William stated flatly. Dr. Fleming's surprise confirmed William's suspicion. "You know about that?" "I know Victoria has been paying you $5,000 a month for 8 years. What I don't know is why." The doctor paled visibly. "Mr. Blackwood, I could lose my license." "Doctor, I'm not interested in causing you problems, but Victoria Harlow kept me from my daughter for 8 years, and now she's threatening our safety. I need to understand what hold she has over you." Dr. Fleming was silent for a long moment. Finally, he opened a drawer and removed a file. "Victoria worked as an administrative assistant at Boston Memorial before joining your company. She had access to patient records." "She accessed Catherine's files?" William asked, though he already knew the answer. "Yes. When Catherine realized someone was leaking her information, she confronted Victoria directly. There was an altercation." Dr. Fleming paused. "Victoria pushed Catherine down a flight of stairs." William felt the blood drain from his face. "What?" "Catherine wasn't seriously injured, but she threatened to press charges. Victoria convinced her not to by promising to stop interfering." Dr. Fleming looked down at his hands. "Victoria approached me afterward, offering money to falsify records showing Catherine had fallen accidentally. I refused, but when Catherine died, Victoria threatened to implicate me in the records tampering anyway. She's been paying me to keep quiet ever since." William struggled to process this information. "Victoria physically assaulted a pregnant woman, my pregnant girlfriend, and has been blackmailing you to cover it up?" "Yes, and there's more." Dr. Fleming handed William the file. "Catherine's accident. The taxi crash wasn't random. The driver reported being run off the road by another vehicle that fled the scene. The police investigation was inconclusive, but you think Victoria caused the accident?" William's voice was barely audible. "I can't prove it, but the timing, coming right after Catherine told Victoria she was going to find you despite her interference." The doctor shrugged helplessly. William left the office in a daze, the file clutched in his hand. If what Dr. Fleming suggested was true, Victoria hadn't just hidden Emma from him. She might have been responsible for Catherine's death. He immediately called Lawrence. "I need everything you can find on Catherine James's accident, police reports, witness statements, everything." That evening, William showed the file to Martha. "My God," she whispered, "do you think it's true?" "I don't know, but it would explain Victoria's obsession. This isn't just about me firing her or the company. If Catherine had lived, if I'd known about the pregnancy, Victoria might be in prison now. What are you going to do?" William stared out the window at the winter night. End this, once and for all. February brought Valentine's Day and Emma's first school dance. William watched with a mixture of pride and melancholy as Martha helped her get ready, pinning small flowers in her hair, the way Catherine might have done. "How do I look?" Emma asked, twirling in her new red dress. "Beautiful," William replied honestly, "just like your mother." As William drove her to school, Emma asked, "Will you and Martha come to the dance later? All the parents are invited." "Wouldn't miss it," William promised. The investigation into Catherine's accident was progressing slowly. The detective William hired had located the taxi driver, now retired in Florida, who confirmed his statement about being forced off the road. But after 9 years, physical evidence was long gone, and witnesses' memories had faded. Victoria, meanwhile, had gone suspiciously quiet. No texts, no attempted contacts, no sightings near their home. The silence was almost more unsettling than the harassment had been. "She's planning something," William told Lawrence during their weekly update. "I can feel it." "We've got eyes on her," Lawrence assured him. "She's been holed up in her Lake Winnipesaukee house for weeks, barely leaves except for groceries." That evening, William and Martha attended the Valentine's dance, watching Emma twirl with her classmates under paper hearts and streamers. Martha sat near the refreshment table, her arthritis too painful for dancing, while William chatted with other parents. "Your daughter is adorable," one mother commented. "She has your eyes." William smiled, feeling a surge of paternal pride that never grew old. "Thank you." As the evening wound down, William went to collect Emma's coat while she said goodbye to her friends. When he returned to the gymnasium, she was nowhere to be seen. "Have you seen Emma?" he asked Martha, trying to keep his voice casual. Martha shook her head. She was just here with Lily. William approached Lily, who was gathering her things. Lily, where's Emma? She went to the bathroom, Lily replied. Like 5 minutes ago. William's anxiety spiked. He hurried to the girls' bathroom, asking a female teacher to check inside. No Emma. She probably went to get her backpack from her classroom, the teacher suggested, but a quick check of Emma's classroom yielded nothing. By now, William's casual concern had transformed into full-blown panic. He alerted school security, who initiated their missing child protocol, locking down the building and beginning a systematic search. 20 minutes later, they had confirmed what William already feared. Emma was no longer in the school. The police arrived promptly, taking statements and descriptions. William provided them with recent photographs and Victoria's information, but without concrete evidence of her involvement, they couldn't issue an Amber Alert yet. I know she has my daughter, William insisted. The detective was sympathetic but firm. Mr. Blackwood, we're taking this very seriously, but we need more than suspicion to trigger a multi-state alert. Check the security cameras, William demanded. The school's exterior cameras had captured something significant. A dark SUV with New Hampshire plates pulling away from the side entrance at exactly the time Emma disappeared. The partial plate was enough for the police to issue the alert. William paced the school office as Martha sat quietly, her face ashen with worry. I should have been watching her more closely, he berated himself. This isn't your fault, Martha insisted. No one expects a child to be taken from a school dance. William's phone rang. Lawrence. We've got movement at Victoria's lake house. Her security system registered the doors opening an hour ago. Local police are on their way now. The next 2 hours were the longest of William's life. Police set up a command center at the school, coordinating with New Hampshire authorities. William provided everything he knew about Victoria, her properties, her habits, her possible motives. Finally, his phone rang again. The caller ID showed a number he didn't recognize. Mr. Blackwood. A child's voice. Emma's voice. Emma, where are you? Are you all right? I'm okay, Dad. She sounded remarkably calm. I'm at a gas station in New Hampshire. The nice lady behind the counter is letting me use her phone. William's knees nearly buckled with relief. How did you get there? Is Victoria with you? She took me from school, but I remembered what you taught me about memorizing license plates and watching for landmarks. When she stopped for gas, I told her I needed the bathroom. Then I ran to the cashier and asked for help. William could have wept with pride. Emma, put the cashier on the phone. The woman confirmed they were at a mobile station just outside Meredith, New Hampshire. Victoria had fled when Emma ran inside, driving off in the direction of the lake. Within the hour, William was reunited with Emma at the gas station, crushing her in a hug that made her squirm. Dad, I'm fine, really. William couldn't let go. You are the bravest, smartest girl in the world. Do you know that? New Hampshire police located Victoria's SUV abandoned near her lake house, but no sign of Victoria herself. A manhunt was underway, with officers searching the surrounding woods and neighboring properties. She told me she was taking me to meet my mother, Emma explained, as they drove back to Boston, police escort ahead and behind. She said she knew a special place where I could talk to her. William exchanged a concerned glance with Martha in the rearview mirror. Victoria's mental state was clearly deteriorating. What did you say to that? William asked carefully. I told her my mother was dead, but I could talk to her any time through my memories and the stories you tell me. Emma fingered the locket around her neck. That made her really mad. She said you were filling my head with lies. Back at home, with Emma safely asleep and police stationed outside, William received a call from the New Hampshire authorities. They had found Victoria at a neighbouring vacation home, unconscious from an apparent suicide attempt. She was being transported to a hospital under police guard. 2 days later, as Emma returned to school with significantly increased security, William visited Victoria in the hospital. She was handcuffed to the bed, pale and diminished without her perfect makeup and designer clothes. "Come to gloat?" she asked weakly. William shook his head. "I came to understand. Why, Victoria? All these years, all this hatred. Why?" Victoria turned her face away. "You wouldn't understand. Try me." She was silent for so long, William thought she wouldn't answer. Finally she spoke, her voice barely audible. "I loved you. For 15 years I devoted my life to you, to your company. I understood you in ways no one else did." Her laugh was bitter. "But you never saw me, not once. Then Catherine appears, this bohemian artist with paint under her fingernails. And suddenly you're considering marriage, children, all the things you told me would distract from your goals." William stared at her in disbelief. "You never expressed any romantic interest in me." "Because you made it clear business came first. I was waiting for the right moment, when the company was established enough." Her voice broke. "Then she ruined everything. So you kept her from contacting me. You pushed her downstairs while she was pregnant with my child. And the accident." Victoria's eyes widened slightly. Fleming talked. "Did you cause Catherine's accident, Victoria?" She turned away again. "I just wanted to scare her, to make her leave Boston, leave you alone." William felt physically ill. "She died because of you. Emma grew up without parents because of you." "I never meant for her to die," Victoria whispered, "just to leave." William stood, unable to bear another moment in her presence. "You'll have plenty of time to reflect on your intentions in prison." As he reached the door, Victoria called after him. "She asked for you, you know. At the end, the paramedics told me. Her last word was your name." William didn't turn around. "Goodbye, Victoria." Spring came early to Boston that year. By March, crocuses were pushing through the soil in their garden, and Emma had planted sunflower seeds along the fence. "Because they're happy flowers," she explained. The legal proceedings against Victoria moved forward. She was charged with kidnapping, attempted murder for the accident 9 years ago, and a host of lesser crimes. Her lawyers pursued an insanity defense, but psychiatric evaluation found her competent to stand trial. On a mild April evening, William sat on the porch swing with Emma, watching as Martha tended to her newly planted herbs. "Dad," Emma said thoughtfully, "do you remember the first day we met, outside the restaurant?" William nodded. "Of course. You said you would pay me back for the food someday." Emma smiled. "I've been thinking about that promise." "Emma, you don't need to—" "I know, but promises matter. Martha taught me that." She pulled a small, carefully wrapped package from her pocket. "This is for you." Inside was a hand-drawn picture, the three of them, William, Emma, and Martha, standing in front of their house. Above them, floating in a cloud, was a red-haired woman with Emma's blue eyes. At the bottom, Emma had written in careful letters, "Payment in full." William blinked back tears. "What do you mean?" Emma leaned against his shoulder. "You gave me food that day, but what I really needed was a family. Now I have one. So my promise is kept." As the spring twilight deepened around them, William thought about promises, those broken, those kept, and those still being fulfilled each day. The promise of family, the promise of redemption, the promise of love that transcends even death. Emma had fallen asleep against him, her breathing soft and steady. Martha smiled at them from her garden, her arthritis forgotten in the joy of nurturing growing things. "Thank you, Catherine," William whispered to the evening star, just appearing above the trees, "for the greatest gift I never knew to ask for." And somewhere, perhaps, Catherine smiled.